stretching to the horizon, is a landscape unlike any other on Earth. It appears as a vast, motionless sea of grass, but this is an illusion. For this is not a swamp, but a river, a slow, shallow, silent river, 60 miles wide, flowing south toward the sea. Long before it was a name on any map, the Seminole people called it Pahokee, the grassy water. It was a name born not of cartography, but of intimate knowledge. For centuries, this place remained a wild, impenetrable secret at the heart of the Florida peninsula. The story of the Glades begins, as all life here does, with a single drop of rain. From this simple offering, collected and channeled over millennia, an entire world is born. The water is the architect, the lifeblood, and the defining force of everything we are about to witness. The journey begins here at the vast, shallow basin of Lake Okeechobee. During the summer wet season, the lake swells until it can hold no more. And in a quiet, almost imperceptible moment, it spills over its southern rim, giving birth to the great river. This is the legendary sheet flow. It is not a current you can see, but a patient, deliberate creep of freshwater across the land. The water moves so slowly, perhaps only half a mile a day, that its journey from the lake to the ocean can take an entire year to complete. Look closer and you'll find the engine of this ecosystem. A slimy, green film called periphyton, a complex community of algae and microbes. It is the humble foundation of the food web, feeding the smallest insects and crustaceans, and in doing so, sustaining all larger life. Deeper channels of open water, known as sloughs, serve as the arteries of the Everglades. And here, we find one of its most ancient and iconic residents. The American alligator, a keystone species, glides through its liquid world, a silent guardian of these vital corridors. Arising just a few feet above the water are islands of dense, tropical trees called hardwood hammocks. Like ships in a grassy sea, they offer a refuge of shade and dry land in this overwhelmingly wet world. They are sanctuaries, teeming with life that cannot survive in the open marsh. The first people to call this place home, the Calusa and Seminole, did not seek to tame the Everglades. Instead, they adapted to its rhythms. They built their lives at its edges, using masterful canoes to navigate its waterways, living as a part of the ecosystem, not apart from it. They read the seasons in the sky and the water, and fashioned what they needed from the bones, shells, and reeds the glades provided. Though their societies have vanished, their deep understanding of this land is a lesson that would be forgotten for centuries. In this wet world, a seemingly destructive force is, in fact, an essential partner: fire. Ignited by summer lightning strikes, it sweeps across the prairies with astonishing speed. But this is not an end, it is a renewal. The flames burn away the dead vegetation, returning vital nutrients to the soil. The sawgrass roots, protected below the water, survive unharmed, ready to sprout with new vigor. It is a necessary fever that keeps the ecosystem healthy and balanced. Then, a new people arrived, not as explorers, but as refugees. The Seminole, forged from conflict and displacement, found a sanctuary in the very impenetrability that kept others out. For them, the Everglades was not a wilderness to be conquered, but a fortress of freedom. They built their villages on the high ground of the hammocks and learned to live within the glades' embrace. Their story of survival and resistance would become inextricably woven into the identity of this land, a testament to the resilience of both people and place. But in the 19th century, a new and dangerous idea arrived on these shores. It was the belief that this ancient, intricate wilderness was nothing more than a worthless swamp. An obstacle standing in the way of progress. For decades, mapmakers had simply labeled this region as unknown. Now, men with slide rules and ambitions saw not a wonder of nature, but a blank canvas for development. And their first goal was to remove the one thing that gave it life, the water. The age of the dredge began. Great, smoke-belching machines ripped into the earth, carving straight, deep canals. The gentle, meandering flow of the river was captured, controlled, and rerouted, its ancient veins severed by steel. And with the land drained, the promises began. Developers sold parcels of reclaimed land to aspiring farmers across the nation. They sold a dream of a new agricultural paradise, built upon the bones of the Everglades. But the dream quickly soured. The rich peat soil, when exposed to the air, began to oxidize and disappear. It turned to a fine black powder that created blinding dust storms, and the very ground the farmers stood on began to vanish beneath their feet. At the same time, another kind of plunder was underway. The magnificent wading birds of the Everglades were hunted relentlessly for their feathers, which were prized for ladies' hats. The cost of this fashion was paid in silence as the great rookeries were emptied. The transformation was relentless. A complex web of canals and levees now crisscrossed the landscape, diverting the water to burgeoning cities and vast new sugarcane fields. Over 50% of the original Everglades was drained and repurposed. As the cities of South Florida grew, they drew their life from the Everglades, siphoning its water to fill their pools and quench their thirst. The glow of Miami on the horizon became a stark symbol of this new order, a triumph of engineering built upon an ecological catastrophe. The consequences were devastating. In the dry season, the cracked earth became a testament to the missing water. The alligator holes, once vibrant oases, shrank to muddy pits, stranding the last survivors of a desiccated world. And then came a shocking discovery. Scientists realized the soil itself was disappearing, a process called subsidence. The very foundation of the new agricultural empire was literally vanishing into thin air, dropping by as much as 8 feet in some areas. The land was sinking. Early farmhouses, once built at ground level, had to be raised onto stilts. It was a powerful, unsettling reminder that this was a landscape that refused to be completely tamed. The sickness spread to the source. Lake Okeechobee, now polluted with agricultural runoff, began to suffer from massive algal blooms. The heart of the Everglades was poisoned, and that poison was being pumped through what little remained of the system. But by the 1970s, a new consciousness was dawning. A generation of conservationists began to raise the alarm. They argued that the quality of life in the cities was directly linked to the health of the ecosystem they were destroying. Just as this awareness grew, the ultimate threat emerged, a plan to build the world's largest airport right at the edge of Everglades National Park. It was to be the final, irreversible blow, a concrete and asphalt tombstone for the river of grass. A fierce battle began, pitting developers against a new army of environmentalists. Scientists presented irrefutable evidence: the jetport would sever the last vital water flows and guarantee the death of the South Florida ecosystem. The fate of the Everglades hung in the balance. And then, in a landmark decision that stunned the nation, the project was blocked. For the first time, the argument for preservation had triumphed over the promise of progress. It was an unprecedented victory, a turning point in American environmental history. It was a single, crucial moment that allowed the Everglades to breathe again. The victory gave rise to a powerful new idea: perhaps what had been broken could be fixed. Perhaps the river could be allowed to flow once more. And so the impossible began. In an extraordinary reversal, machines were brought in not to dig, but to undo. The channelized Kissimmee River was de-engineered, its concrete walls smashed, and its waters set free to wander its ancient floodplain once more. In the year 2000, the United States Congress authorized the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. It was the most expensive and ambitious environmental restoration project ever attempted in human history, a monumental promise to heal the wounds of the past. But healing a living system is never simple. The plan's implementation has been slow, hampered by political challenges and constant debates over funding. The struggle to balance the needs of cities, farms, and nature continues to this day. Through it all, the Seminole and Miccosukee people remain. They have become essential stewards of this land, blending ancient traditions with modern advocacy. They are the living memory of the Everglades, and a powerful voice for its future. Today, park rangers use the very tool that was once misunderstood and feared. Prescribed burns, carefully managed, now mimic the natural fire cycle. Humanity is slowly relearning the lessons the Everglades has been teaching for millennia. And slowly life is returning. In the newly restored wetlands, the great wading birds are coming back. Their elegant forms against the sunset are a fragile but powerful symbol of the ecosystem's enduring resilience. Scientists, too, are finding signs of hope in the smallest of places. Clean water samples teeming with healthy periphyton. It is here, at the microscopic level, that the recovery of the entire system truly begins. From the air, the scars of the 20th century are still clearly visible. A sharp, undeniable line separates the wild, organic patterns of the glades from the rigid geometry of modern life. A stark reminder of how much was lost, and how much is at stake. In the unblinking eye of the alligator, we see a reflection of the endless sky and an ancient, wild spirit. The pulse of the Everglades is slow, its memory is long. It is wounded, but it endures, a living testament to the fight for balance in our modern world.